Well guys, I didn't think that I was going to be filming this morning, and I thought our chicken thievery problem maybe moved along. Maybe he found greener pastures, fatter chickens, less coop, less run, less deterrence, and I was wrong. But I didn't make any losses in this one, so we've been actually setting dog-proof traps. I actually got a lot from my video about forgetting to close the coop door, which you guys will find a card up in the top if you didn't get to see that episode. But this morning I was milking, having some one-on-one time with myself, the goats, just kind of thinking about the day, what we're going to do today. And my self-meditation was abruptly interrupted because I've set these dog-proof traps about a week ago, and we did catch one thing. And one of the coons that we've been seeing, guys, that comes through about every night, like when it stands up to look at you, it's like well past my knee. It's King Coon. I think we caught King Coon, but King Coon broke through the several layers of rope that I had the chain tied off to a tree, sheared the bark off the tree, which I'll show you guys that after a minute. But this morning the dogs just erupted. It sounded like sometime a fight was happening, so I dropped what I was doing, hurried up, milked the doe out, threw her back in, and came flying out here. And guys, right there, that's one of our problems. We do live off the road. The road through this thicket back here is a county road, and there's a creek that runs along the side of that with drainage, and we get a lot of action from coons down in that creek bed. So, I'm not going to live trap these guys. That was never the intention. Anything that got in a live trap was not going to leave my farm. It was going to be removed. So this guy was removed. Not to mention he tore my dog. So back to the story. Came flying over here. The dogs are over here. June's in the back, of course, ripping on this thing, and Django's in the front. And Django has got some damage to his face, so we'll show you guys that here in a minute. This is what nature's built them to do. They're built to come in and eat animals during the night. They're nocturnal. They come in the night. It just so happens my chicken coop is right there, guys, and this line goes all the way and leads up right behind it. So forgive me if I'm going to assume that this guy was just making his rounds. So that's what we're starting off with this morning. We have one of the culprits that I'm sure, because most raccoons don't really travel. They have like a wide territory and they move, and I'm sure some of them are nomadic. I don't really know a whole lot about coons. I just know they really, really like to eat my chickens. Like my good chickens too, like for my kid for 4-H. So we are one raccoon less. So let's go see how Django's doing, because he did not look good. He had a bunch of blood on his face because he wasn't as smart as my big dog. He was going right up front, which is totally a little dog thing. Small dogs are a little bit more in your face, have a little man complex, if you will. They kind of overreacted. And there you guys go. Stop, sit. Can you sit? Django. So this raccoon has gotten a hold of his poor little face. So he's actually got a cut like right on his snout. And I think June's been licking him. Hi, June. Actually, my husband and I were out at like 9:30 with flashlights and rifles because the little one was running through the forest line here, and you could hear him. Sorry, I'm trying to be quiet, like the rest of my family is sleeping. I'm the early riser, the one that gets up and milks. So we were out there last night doing that, and you know, we caught some eyes in this tree line back here, which that never makes me feel good because that tree line butts up against my chicken coop. So I'd already closed up my chicken coop. I've been making sure to do that on a regular basis so that I don't get caught with the proverbial pants down in my chicken coop again. So that's one coon. And I know where there's one coon, there's probably 5 or 6 more. So we'll probably continue to keep trapping. I probably won't update you guys on that, but for those of you that took an interest in my forgetting to close the coop doors, which I know we're all very guilty of, and we've all probably paid for it at some point. So I just thought I'd give you guys a little bit of closure on that, like pretty sure it was a coon. We've got one of them. I don't know if it was the coon, but it's probably one of the coons that comes in cases, because we have coons come out every night, guys. Like every single night. So, all right, on to the rest of the day. But I did tell you guys at the beginning of this video that I was going to show you where we trapped the other raccoon and how he sheared things off. So, I mean, okay. So there are some wood chips that he pulled off of the tree. You guys can see here, he kind of went crazy on this branch. It's all gnawed, which I totally get why. Then if you come back around on this side, you can see here where he's rubbed and gnawed there, broke that down out of the ground. And then you have this grapevine that came down that he took out some rage on too. So that was a big boy or girl, I'm not sure of the sex, but big raccoon. And like I said, I had that wrapped multiple times around a tree. I will from now on forever use wire. I've learned my lesson. That was my first go round with the dog-proof hand traps. And as far as I can tell, guys, they were dog-proof. We didn't have any issues with our dogs or cats getting into it, and it was out here for over a week with a marshmallow as bait. I'll show you guys how these traps work in case you have coon, mink, or possum problems, or anything that has the thumb where they can actually reach down in there and grab and pull, because that's kind of the consensus here. So you guys can see, well, he is not, oh, can you see him? Yeah, he's not the biggest guy in the creek bed, but he's a bigger fella. So like I said, I feel bad about this, but at least I know the traps work. And you can tell, guys, here too, this fella, you can see right down here, he was gnawing, and that's hair and everything else, which I'm sure the dogs being at him didn't help. But the rope here is starting to fray. You guys can see right there, it's starting to fray a little bit. So I'm actually really surprised that it held. But quite honestly, the dogs were on him this morning. I don't think he'd gotten away. So that's where we're at on that. I'm gonna go ahead and cut now and show you guys how we set those traps. I'll have Mark kind of do a little tutorial for you, and then we're gonna be signing off. And we've got a lot going on here, guys. We still have a lot of manure to move. We still have a lot of planning to do. We've been really busy, and I can't wait to bring you guys along. So here's a cutaway to Mark.
Hey everyone, so we recently had purchased a couple of these traps for a coon issue we had. My wife had found them, and they were dog proof because we have a couple of dogs, which was handy. Didn't have to worry about them hurting any of our pets, including cats as well. So I'm going to do a quick demo on how we set it up. We had actually had success catching a coon with one of them, which was great. So we purchased 3 of them. The bait we used to begin with was marshmallow, something sweet that they liked. It's also sort of sticky, so it stayed down in the bottom real nice and really made them dig at the trap to get it out. And that was really helpful. So to set up the trap, right here is basically the trip pin that's going to activate the trap, and it really takes some force. This trap's really strong. Definitely keep your fingers out of the middle of the cylinder here when you're working on it, or when you have it set, because this thing has a really heavy spring on it. So to set the trap, it really helps to have this tool that they provide and is actually used to set the trap. We tried it without it. You can do it. I had to push it against a tree and squeeze with all my force I could, and then my wife was able to set it under the trigger there, but it was really
Dicey.
tight. Yeah, and it's not, honestly, probably not as safe as using the tool they give you. So the tool is basically has 2 prongs here. You'll slide them over the pin right here for the trigger, and you'll go over this bar right here and underneath the spring pin here. So you'll slide it down in there, and you'll want this to be between these rods here. So basically what that does is when you pry down, it'll loosen the tension on the pin and the trigger, and you can just put the trigger on there and let go. Slowly pull it out, and there you go, trap set. So what'll happen is now when something reaches down in the cylinder, it's probably pretty dark in there, but there's a little ring that activates the trigger, And when something reaches down in there and grabs the bait and goes to pull, or tries to dig at the bait and pulls that trigger, it's going to pull across this bar here that traps their limb that they're reaching down in there with. Like I said, it worked great. Comes with a good chain to anchor it to something. Definitely probably into the ground, or if the ground's soft, I mean, it's got a pin here too to anchor it. But I would recommend probably putting it to a tree because the trap's pretty light. We did have one of the traps something took away. We imagine it was another coon. Ashley, my wife, did a video on that as well. But anchoring it down would be really helpful. But yeah, had good success with it. Again, it's also helpful that it prevents any injury to our animals, you know, as something like a clamp trap, or you know, another type of trap that could maim something, one of our pets, which we don't want. So it's worth a try. Definitely recommend using these, and just be careful setting them up. Thanks. Bye.
So now that you've had your little tutorial with Mark, I hope you guys found that a little bit helpful. If you do decide to use that specific dog-proof trap, make sure you buy the setting tool that goes with it. Ours didn't, so we had to go ahead and buy that because it's dicey if you don't, and it's a little bit dangerous for your digits. So with that, guys, I think we're going to go ahead and sign off. Thanks so much for being here for our adventure this morning with catching a coon. We are about a week behind, so if you guys want to keep up with me or my family here on Mulberry Branch Farm, please go ahead, follow us on Facebook or Instagram. We post here on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We also let you know on Facebook and Instagram. But if you found yourself enjoying this video at any point in time, please go ahead, drop a like, leave us a comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the notification bell, because if you don't follow us on Instagram or Facebook, if you ring that notification bell, you won't miss out on any adventure that we're about to embark on. So until next time, guys, thanks for being with us again today. Bye.